Anyone who's had a geometry or trig class has run into the Pythagorean theorem. But did you know that Pythagoras was the founder of a secret society based on the immortality of the soul, reincarnation, vegetarianism, and naturally, math? The Pythagorean Brotherhood cropped up in southern Italy around 500 BC. Despite its name, it occasionally initiated women. Initiates lived a monastic existence, shared possessions and labor, and were sworn to secrecy. Initiation took 5 years. Pythagoras taught that numbers and numerical ratios were the keys to understanding reality. The real reality, that is. Mathematics, thus, was a mystery. Pythagoras combined this with a belief in an immortal soul that fell from the stars to be imprisoned in an earthly material body. The ultimate goal was to end the cycle of rebirth, escape the prison of flesh, and return to one's celestial home. It all sounds a bit Buddhist, doesn't it? Interestingly, Buddhism appeared just about the same time in India. The Pythagorean Brotherhood also nurtured a murky political agenda. In 5th century Athens, they infiltrated aristocratic secret societies, basically rich boy social clubs, to overthrow the democratic government. Such political intrigue led to the Pythagoreans' persecution and eventual disappearance. It's a pattern we'll see over and over again, a political agenda disguised by mysticism, and one secret order using others to achieve its end. The Pythagoreans disappeared, but they weren't destroyed. Their doctrines lived on in other cults. Among these were the Platonists, who appeared a couple of centuries later. Through their founder, Plato, they combined the Eleusinian mysteries with Pythagoras' fallen soul and cycle of rebirth. The Platonists elaborated this by claiming that the soul fell to earth and was influenced by planetary spheres through which it passed. This notion became part of what we call astrology, and the Platonists went on to inspire the Neoplatonists of the late Roman Empire, who in turn influenced many other cults and societies. Pythagorean influence also shows up in the Orphic mysteries. Its basic plot line was a takeoff on the Demeter-Persephone myth. Orpheus descended into Hades to retrieve his departed wife, Eurydice. Unfortunately, she turned to look back, and she was trapped forever. It was all an allegory for the Orphic's obsession with the divine soul and its liberation from rebirth and mortal captivity. Sacred music and dance were very important, as were concepts of sin and redemption and ritual purification. The Dionysian mysteries embraced similar notions with a carnal twist. They believed in spiritual liberation through ecstasy induced through ritual intoxication, orgiastic sex, and acts of spectacular violence. Different strokes for different folks. The cult had an inner society of female initiates called Maenads or Bacchae. Through dance and drugs, they worked themselves into a frenzied trance that ended with them tearing apart and devouring a consecrated bull, or sometimes a man. Sisterhood is powerful. The first 3 centuries of the AD era were the heyday of the mystery cults, and it's no coincidence that this corresponds to the heyday of the Roman Empire. Rome, by bringing most of the Mediterranean and Near Eastern world under its control, became a melting pot of peoples, religions, and ideas. One of Rome's most popular mystery cults was devoted to the Egyptian goddess Isis. She was another grieving deity who searches to bring her loved one back from the dead. In this case, it's her husband Osiris, the god of the underworld and regeneration. Osiris is murdered by his brother Set, god of violence and destruction, aided by 72 accomplices. Note the number 72. It shows up in a lot of places, like the 72 letters of the Hebrew name of God and the 72 hidden masters who supposedly rule the world. Isis gave birth to a holy child, Horus, who is the son of Osiris and also, somehow, Osiris himself. If you think you've never seen Isis, you almost certainly have. She stares out from almost every image of the Virgin Mary, another grieving goddess. Mary holding Jesus is virtually identical to Isis holding Horus. Or compare Mary mourning over the body of Christ with Isis mourning over the body of Osiris. Mary standing on a crescent is Isis standing on her solar boat. The main festival of the Isis cult was the Novicium Isidis, the Voyage of Isis, held in March. A procession traveled from the temple to the harbor. Elaborately decorated carts carried images of the goddess and other sacred objects. Think Catholic Saints' Day pageants. Participants dressed in elaborate costumes, often mythological figures, and were accompanied by music, dancing, and wholesale revelry. Add bare breasts and strands of beads, and you've got Mardi Gras. At the harbor, offerings were heaped aboard a replica of Isis's holy boat. An egg was broken on the hull for luck, just like champagne bottles. Once cut loose, the boat drifted away, bearing the offerings and prayers. The public procession also echoes the sacred way of the Eleusinian mysteries, and Christian pilgrimages like Spain's Camino de Santiago. Similarities to Christian practices don't end there. Isisian sacraments included baptism and the confession and forgiveness of sins. There was even a sacred meal, not unlike the Eucharist. It's a fair question to ask whether the triumphant Christian church abolished the worship of Isis or simply absorbed it. Regardless, Isis was never forgotten. References to her and her